The scorching Egyptian sun cast long shadows across the limestone corridors of Pyrameses as Nefertari hurried through the palace halls, her simple linen dress rustling against the polished floors. At 22 years old, she had spent her entire life believing she was nothing more than a minor servant in the household of the great Pharaoh Ramses II. The sound of her bare feet echoed softly as she carried scrolls to the royal scribes, a task she had performed countless times without question. The palace buzzed with its usual afternoon activity, servants preparing for the evening feast, guards changing shifts, and officials conducting the endless business of governing the vast Egyptian empire. The air was thick with the scent of frankincense and myrrh burning in the temple chambers, mixed with the aroma of bread baking in the palace kitchens. Nefertari called out Keti, the elderly head scribe, his weathered face creased with the expression she had never seen before, a mixture of nervousness and something that looked almost like reverence. "Come here, child. There is something you must know." She approached cautiously, setting down the scrolls on his writing table. The scribe's chamber was filled with papyrus documents, inkpots, and red pens, but today something was different. On his desk lay an ornate scroll sealed with royal wax, a seal she recognized as belonging to Ramses himself. "What is it, Master Keti?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. In all her years in the palace, she had never seen the old scribe look so troubled. Keti's hands trembled slightly as he broke the royal seal. "Yesterday, while organizing the royal genealogies for the upcoming Opet festival, I discovered something extraordinary." He unrolled the papyrus carefully, revealing columns of hieroglyphic text that documented royal bloodlines. "Your birth name, the one given to you by the midwife who brought you here as an infant. It matches a name in these records." Nefertari's heart began to race. She had always wondered about her origins, knowing only that she had been brought to the palace as a baby after her parents died in a plague that swept through a distant village. "I don't understand, Master Keti." The scribe pointed to a section of the scroll with his reed pen. "Here, child. This records the birth of a daughter to Prince Kemwaset, Ramses' fourth son, and his wife Keti Heri. The infant was sent away during the plague years for her protection and was believed lost." His voice grew softer. "That infant was you, Nefertari." The chamber seemed to spin around her as the implications hit her like the flooding Nile. She grabbed the edge of the writing table to steady herself, her knees threatening to give way. "You're saying, I'm of royal blood. You are the granddaughter of Ramses II himself," Keti confirmed, his voice filled with awe. "Your father, Prince Kemwaset, died in the same plague that took your mother. You were hidden away to protect you, but the records were preserved." As the reality of her true identity sank in, Nefertari felt as though she was seeing the palace with new eyes. The corridors she had walked as a servant now seemed like halls she had inherited. The pharaoh whose distant figure she had glimpsed during ceremonies was her grandfather. The weight of royal blood coursed through her veins, explaining the strange dreams she had always had of ruling and the inexplicable way certain nobles had always treated her with unusual kindness. "What happens now?" she asked, her voice trembling with a mixture of fear and wonder. Keti rolled up the scroll carefully. "Now, we must present this evidence to Pharaoh Ramses. Your true position must be restored, granddaughter of the great ancestor." As the sun set over the mighty Nile, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson that reflected off the palace walls, Nefertari realized that her life as an anonymous servant was about to end forever. The simple existence she had known was about to be replaced by the complex world of royal politics, duties, and privileges that came with being a granddaughter of the most powerful man in the known world. The throne room of Pyrameses had never seemed so vast and intimidating as Nefertari approached the golden throne where Ramses II sat in all his regal splendor. The great pharaoh, now in his 60s but still commanding in presence, wore the double crown of Upper and Lower Egypt, his weathered face bearing the authority of 4 decades of rule. Massive columns carved with scenes of his victories rose toward the painted ceiling, while courtiers and officials lined the walls in respectful silence. Keti walked beside her, carrying the genealogical scroll that would change everything. The sound of their footsteps on the polished stone floor seemed to echo throughout the vast chamber, each step bringing her closer to a destiny she had never imagined. "My pharaoh," Keti announced, bowing deeply as they reached the prescribed distance from the throne, "I bring before you evidence of great importance regarding your bloodline." Ramses leaned forward slightly, his keen eyes studying Nefertari with newfound interest. She had seen him from afar during ceremonies, but never had his attention been focused solely on her. The intensity of his gaze made her acutely aware that she stood before not just a man, but a living god in the eyes of his people. "Speak, loyal scribe," Ramses commanded, his voice resonating through the chamber with the authority of absolute power. Keti presented the scroll and began to read the genealogical evidence, his voice steady despite the magnitude of the moment. As he spoke, explaining how Nefertari had been hidden during the plague years and raised unknowingly as a servant, the pharaoh's expression shifted from skepticism to recognition, and finally to something approaching wonder. "Step forward, child," Ramses said after Keti finished his presentation. Nefertari approached the throne with trembling legs, her heart pounding so loudly she was certain everyone in the chamber could hear it. As she drew closer, she could see something in the pharaoh's eyes that she had never expected. The look of a grandfather seeing his lost granddaughter for the first time. "You have your father's eyes," Ramses said softly, his voice filled with emotion that surprised everyone present. "Khemwaset was my pride, destined to follow in my footsteps until the plague took him." He stood from his throne, descending the steps to stand before her. "I mourned not only his death but the loss of his infant daughter, believing she had perished with him." The throne room fell silent, except for the soft sound of torches flickering in their bronze holders. Courtiers exchanged glances, understanding that they were witnessing a moment that would be recorded in the annals of Egyptian history. "My granddaughter," Ramses continued, placing his hands on her shoulders in a gesture that officially acknowledged her royal status before the entire court, "you shall no longer serve in anonymity. You are Princess Nefertari, daughter of Prince Khemwaset, granddaughter of Ramses the Great. Your rightful place is beside the throne, not sweeping its floors." Over the following months, Nefertari's transformation from servant to princess became the subject of palace conversation and royal proclamations. She was given chambers befitting her status, tutors to educate her in royal protocol and statecraft, and servants of her own. But more importantly, Ramses began involving her in the governance of the kingdom, recognizing in her the intelligence and wisdom that had been nurtured by years of observing palace life from a unique perspective. "You understand both the common people and the nobles," Ramses told her one evening as they walked through the palace gardens beside the Nile. "This makes you invaluable as a ruler. You have lived among servants and slaves, understanding their struggles, while possessing the blood and breeding to command respect from the nobility." Nefertari proved herself worthy of her grandfather's confidence. She established new policies to improve conditions for palace servants, having experienced their hardships firsthand. She mediated disputes between nobles with a wisdom beyond her years, and her genuine care for all levels of Egyptian society earned her the love of the people. As the annual Opet festival approached, Ramses made an announcement that would secure Egypt's future. Standing before the assembled crowd in the great courtyard of Karnak Temple, with Nefertari beside him wearing the golden uraeus serpent crown of a royal princess, he declared her his chosen heir. "Princess Nefertari has proven that true nobility comes not from birth alone, but from understanding, wisdom, and dedication to Egypt and her people." His voice carried across the thousands gathered to celebrate. "She shall rule after me, bringing both royal blood and common wisdom to the throne of the two lands." Years later, when Nefertari ascended to become pharaoh, she would be remembered not just as the servant who became a queen, but as the ruler who bridged the gap between the palace and the people. Her unique journey from anonymity to royalty had prepared her to understand and serve all of Egypt, proving that sometimes the greatest leaders are those who have experienced life from every level of society. The woman who had once thought herself ordinary had discovered that her true power lay not in her royal blood alone, but in the wisdom gained from living as both servant and sovereign, understanding that true leadership meant serving others rather than being served.